So I am now recording. So thank you for joining us for the free Akashic Trancework webinar. We do these every day because we love talking about what we do. It's our favorite thing. Marcia, you've engaged with us in this process quite a bit, but I think that you'll find some value in this time as well. And Becca, welcome to the session. If you have any questions or thoughts or feedback at any time, if you have any issues hearing me or you want me to repeat something, let me know. It's an interactive session. I'm actually here, as you can see. So I want to introduce myself. My name is Nathan, and I'm an Akashic trance worker. So what does that mean? I'll talk about that a little bit first. In Akashic trance work, we explore the subconscious mind. We explore different states of awareness for the purpose of wellness and also for the purpose of expansion. In Akashic trance work, we've come to understand how consciousness works in a very specific way. Excuse me. We conceptualize evolution, the growth of consciousness, along what we call the ARE cycle. And that comes from the idea of Ubuntu, which is a word that means I am because we are. And as we've come into the understanding of Ubuntu, we've come to understand that ARE, activate, release, expand, is the process by which we grow. Hi, Beth. Welcome. Just talking a little bit about Akashic trance work and the ARE cycle, which comes from the Ubuntu principle. I am because we are. We activate, we release, and we expand. So, what does that mean? When I become aware of something, when I see something, when something becomes clear to me, it's an activation. Anything's an activation. You can see something on the street and suddenly you're aware of something. But most often, when we talk about activations, we're talking about significant experiences in our lives, things that shift our awareness and make us see on a different level, from a different perspective. And they also clue us into things that we might be holding on to. And that's when we begin to shift into a release phase. We can choose when we become aware of things within our consciousness, within our experience that might be holding us back, might be weighing us down, that might be preventing us from our full potential, from our full actualization. We can choose at that point to release those things, to just move them out of our bodies, of our minds, of our hearts, because they don't serve us anymore. There's no purpose in holding on to those things. We can also choose when we have an activation to suppress. We can suppress our awareness and kind of move forward. And that's what we do most of the time in life. We suppress. But if we are able to release, if we have the courage to face ourselves and let go of those things, that's when we can make space for expansion, to expand our consciousness, to expand our awareness, to just live and love and thrive and be at a deeper level, to cultivate our presence, to cultivate our heart centered awareness, to just live and not be so weighed down by those things, those dense feelings. So, how do we do this? How do we go through activation, release, expansion? How do we master this process? How do we steer this process instead of kind of being led along? Because we go through this process regardless of what we do. We will activate, we will either release or suppress, and we'll either expand or we'll suffer. And that's usually what happens. We either ARE or we ASS. We'd rather go through an R cycle than an S cycle. It's kind of a joke that we have. So we don't want to suppress and suffer. We want to release and expand. In order to do that, we've cultivated different trance states, different states of awareness that allow us to understand the different experiences that we have. We have a lot of different experiences in life, a lot of different levels of awareness. We have many different senses, is what it comes down to. In English, in the West, we talk about having five physical senses, and we kind of vaguely and generally talk about having a sixth sense, an intuitive psychic awareness. We like to call this astral awareness as a general term, but in reality, we have many senses. The Egyptians taught us that we have 360 senses, right? So if we have all of these senses within us, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to kind of generally group everything into a sixth sense. We have many levels of awareness, many layers of awareness we can just tap into. Like past lives, ancestral experience, spirit guides, star family. But why do we care about having these awarenesses? Because they are the things that allow us to see within, to access our deeper knowledge. When we can do that, when we can go within, when we can activate that portal to higher awareness, that's where we can really begin to tune in, to fine tune our astral awareness, our higher senses. We've been going around our entire lives with our hands over our ears and our eyes closed. We have the opportunity now to open our eyes, to open our ears, to see things on a level that we previously did not even imagine because we have so much capability. The key to tapping into this capability is understanding the different states of mind that we as humans, all humans, can access. These states of mind can be measured on a machine, on an EEG, as brainwave patterns. We often talk about these things in spiritual work and hypnotherapy and shamanic practice, brain science. So if you have any exposure to things like that, then you may be familiar with these states. We talk about the different brainwave patterns: beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma. These are all specific frequencies, specific energy resonances within our brains that can be triggered, activated, changed, altered in many different ways. In Akashic Trance work, we want to cultivate very specifically our alpha, theta, delta, and gamma awareness. We want to trigger those brain waves to go off in our minds. We want to feel these different states of awareness. And we can do that through some very easy methods. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what these different trance states are, what they're good for first, what the different brainwave patterns are. Beta states are what happen when we are fully engaged with our environment, when we're active, when we're focused externally on our physical environment. Our egos are very much active. We may experience fear or anxiety whenever those things are present. Beta waves are very active in our minds because we need those things to survive. So, beta awareness is what allows us to engage with our physical bodies and with our physical reality. Obviously, we need beta waves, we need beta states in order to function in the world. And there are people that need more beta activity because maybe they're not grounded, maybe they're not good at keeping track of their lives and their environments. And sometimes we need to activate more beta activity. But in Akashic Trance work, we focus more on relaxing some of those beta activities and moving ourselves into a more relaxed alpha state and then down deeper into the theta and delta states. So, what about alpha states? Alpha states are sort of a sweet spot for trance workers because it's an easy place to get to, right? We all go to alpha states very regularly. Anytime that we're daydreaming, anytime that we're kind of spacing out, if we're lightly meditating, if we are just kind of introspectively engaging with our minds, with our hearts, then we're activating our alpha waves. We're going into what we like to call alpha trance. Your daydreaming ability, your ability to kind of just space out and focus on something else, something internal, is actually a great asset. It's not encouraged very much in our busy 3D lives where we're supposed to be on task and always focused, but there's a lot of power in those creative, imaginative, visual spaces that many of us can go into. This work is very, very good for people that are very visual. That's not to say that people that aren't very visual can't benefit from this. They can, but very visual, creative, imaginative people do very well with Akashic Trance work because when we can engage our creative, imaginative capacities, we can begin to speak the language of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind communicates through symbolism. When we create symbolic structures in our minds, our subconscious responds, it reacts. If I start to imagine an ice cream cone, my mind will immediately begin to respond with all the different meanings of ice cream cone, all the different permutations, all the different flavors until I choose to isolate it down to one flavor or one type. It's going to cycle through all the different possibilities. And that's how the subconscious mind responds. So the more that we can consciously and intentionally cultivate our mental energy in these trance states, the more effectively we can engage with the subconscious mind for any number of purposes, for healing, for empowerment, for exploration, to understand experiences we've already had. Most of the people that are drawn to this work are people that alpha trance very naturally, very easily, and they're just looking for some ways to understand those experiences and to use those experiences effectively instead of just kind of being carried away by them, which is usually what happens because we don't really have any sort of spaces or understanding or tools in our predominant culture. And that's what we do. We want to explore these trance states with safe, effective, practical tools. So when we're in these alpha states, we can do a lot of very powerful visual work, a lot of very powerful imaginative, creative work without even having to really do much. We can go there very easily. Now, sometimes that's not enough, though. And sometimes we want to cultivate deeper states. We want to go into more inner places and not be distracted by our external world. And when we do that, we start to go down into theta states. And theta states are extremely powerful. They can be challenging for some people to reach in an active, awake state of mind, but we all go into our theta states all the time when we're dreaming, when we're about to fall asleep. We're in a very theta state where we're fully engaged with our inner world, with our imaginations. Our egos are relaxed, and we can just kind of rest into our inner world. In a deep theta state, somebody could probably come along and touch you and pick up your arm, and it would just fall because you're so engaged with your inner world that you don't care so much about the outer world. Obviously, that takes a level of relaxation, a level of safety and security. So you go there all the time when you dream, but in Akashic Trancework, we've developed and cultivated some tools that allow us to go to that place even while we're awake. And it's very powerful because oftentimes we don't remember our dreams. We do a lot of important work in our dreams. A lot of us may even lucid dream and explore our inner space, our astral space, very in depth, but we don't necessarily remember what happens in our waking life. So we don't get to analyze, we don't get to acknowledge the work that we've been doing. We don't get to really understand it on that same level. When you go into a theta state, especially if you have a guide with you, but you can even do things like recording yourself or drawing or recording something immediately after. When you do that from a waking state, you can go in and explore that dream language and then bring yourself back out to an alpha state or to a beta state where you can analyze and you can look at and you can interpret and you can work with that symbolic language. The theta state is very powerful because that's where all of our really deep work can happen. You know, if we go into past lives, if we're reading the Akashic record, if we're connecting with our ancestors, we're connecting with people that have passed, we're connecting with our star family, we're connecting with spirit guides. There's so many different things that can go on and on and on and on, and I do sometimes. But it's really amazing what we can do in those theta states. And the problem is that oftentimes, if we relax enough to go into a theta state, we get really cozy, really comfortable, and then we just kind of fall asleep and go into a delta state. And delta states are when you're in that deep, dreamless sleep, right? And you don't necessarily want to do anything. You don't care about engaging anything. You're nice and relaxed. If anyone's ever awoken you in the middle of the night and all you want to do is back to sleep and you don't really care about anything else, then you're in a delta state, most likely because you're just ready. You need that restful sleep. And those are great. They're very healing. You can receive a lot of healing in those states and they can be induced. But in order to be fully engaged with our minds, with the subconscious, with the dream language, we want to try to maintain those theta states and kind of oscillate between alpha and delta and stay in that theta place. Sometimes, excuse me, if we're doing enough work on ourselves, if we're cultivating a lot of peace and love and joy, we can bring ourselves into gamma states. And gamma states are what have been measured with people who have been meditating for a very long time, who are very centered, who are very present. It's a deep state of peace and interconnectedness and relaxation. And you can't really necessarily induce those states, but as you begin to work in these spaces, the gamma states start to happen. They start to awaken. And we like to call this sometimes heart centered awareness, state of divine unconditional love. And it takes a certain amount of release, a certain amount of letting go to be able to get there. And that's our ultimate goal, is to release enough so that we can all kind of live in this state of unconditional love as much as possible. And even if we can't, to experience some of the joys of just living, even with the difficult things. Even the difficult things can bring us joy if we can cultivate that right perspective. So that's what we can do in these different trance states. We can do a lot of different work. We can heal, we can expand, we can explore, we can dig in. Hi, Julie. Thanks for joining us. We were just talking about the different trance states, about alpha, theta, delta, gamma states. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about those things, there'll be an email forthcoming, so I'll have that information. So, how do we get down into these different trance states? That's what we care about. The information about what these trance states are, you can get that anywhere. There's plenty of resources out there about these things, but we want to be able to take ourselves into these different states of awareness very easily. And it's not hard. It just requires a little bit of practice, a little bit of concentration, a little bit of mindfulness. It's fun, it's relaxing, and it can be very eye-opening. We just have to be willing and ready to face ourselves a little bit, to spend some time with ourselves. And that's what we're doing today. We're just spending some time with ourselves, gently relaxing, and then we're going to do some other things about astral boundaries too. But first of all, I wanted to talk about some methods that we use to induce some of these different trance states. So, main method that we can use to get ourselves into that relaxed alpha state is the breath. If you've done any kind of yoga, any kind of meditation, qigong, martial arts, anything like that, then you know how powerful the breath is. The breath is really everything. So, if we want to bring ourselves into an alpha state, what we've found is that a breath count of 5 seconds is very helpful. If we count to 5 as we breathe in, we count to 5 as we breathe out, that will immediately begin to relax us, immediately begin to slow down our heart rate a little bit, bringing us in to that inner space, to that astral space where we can begin to just kind of explore and create and imagine. Some of us may go there very easily, automatically, but we want to just kind of build some intentionality. We want to intentionally take ourselves into an alpha state, because you'll find once you can do that, you can bring yourself to a beta state if you need to very easily. So again, 5 counts in, 5 counts out. Some people may find that they actually want to hold for 5 seconds as well between breaths. You could do that too. 5 counts in, hold, 5 counts out. If you're going to do that, I do recommend putting your tongue on the roof of your mouth while you're holding your breath, and that kind of helps to stabilize your energy. So let's go ahead and try it if you like. Let's do it together. I'll count in for 5, breathe in, out for 5, breathe out, just for about 30 seconds. We'll all do this together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue to breathe. Immediately feel your body relaxing. Immediately feel yourself just kind of sinking into a nice, relaxed rhythm. You may find that you want to breathe a bit faster or a bit shallower, and that's fine, but you want to make sure that you can kind of relax, that you can hold a thought or a feeling in your mind without being distracted too much by what's going on around you. Just looking within a little bit. You may find that you want to breathe a bit more. You can go up to 7 seconds. Don't go beyond 7 seconds because that will take you down to a deeper state. We want to just keep it at about 4 to 7 seconds on the inhale and 4 to 7 seconds on the exhale. So if you can do that, if you can be mindful of that, mindful of your breath, you can really begin to master the nuances of bringing yourself between different states of awareness, between these different trance states. Now, breath is great. We love breath, but breath is not always the best way to induce a trance if our minds are too active, if our bodies are too active. We need to get outside of our minds a little bit and go into our bodies. Our body is going into a trance. The mind kind of follows along, but the body is what goes into a trance. So we want to activate our trance state by using our bodies, by using whatever we have available. The breath is not working, then we can use tones. We can tone. Toning is a little bit like singing, but not quite. It's more like humming. You don't have to sound good. You don't have to perform. No one's listening, or if they are, it doesn't matter because you're just trying to feel the vibration of sound in your body. What we found is that if you tone into different parts of your body long enough, you can induce these different trance states very easily, very relaxing, fun, enjoyable way. You can do this with other people, you can do this with children. Children love it. It's very, very relaxed. It's kind of like humming or just humming, although you can mix it up a little bit, a lot, all you want to. Make it your own. But the key is tone into the part of the body that will bring you into that trance state. So in order to tone ourselves into an alpha state, what we found is that it's best to tone into the face, into the nose, into the mouth, into the forehead, feeling the vibration around the nose. And I invite you to do this with me if you like. It doesn't have to sound good. I'm not a singer by any means, but I can tone into my face, into my nasal area. Just take a deep breath in. I don't know if you can hear me through this mic, but I'm just kind of humming into my nasal area. And if I do it properly, I should be able to feel kind of a vibration in my face and my cheeks and my cheekbones and my brain. It's very relaxing, it's very soothing. And it will easily bring us from a beta state into an alpha state very quickly, in a very relaxed way. You probably already do this. If you sing or hum a song when you want to relax, if you think about how we relax a child, how do you relax a child who's crying? You soothe them with your voice. It's very primal for us as humans. Most of us have had that experience either as the parent or the child in their lives. So it's a very primal thing, the vibration of sound in our bodies. So toning and breath are keys to taking us into different states of awareness. They're two very easy, effective methods you can do anytime, anywhere, very quickly to bring yourself into an alpha state so you can do some of the visual work that is highly effective for healing, for empowerment, for personal growth, for resolving addictions, for reading the Akashic record, for any number of things. You can do so much in these alpha states that can't even begin to make a list. That would be exhaustive because it would take forever. I will say that when you are using a teacher plant like ayahuasca, or if you use a hallucinogen like LSD, anything like that, you are engaging a very powerful alpha state. So if you can learn how to really master your alpha trances, you can have the same types of experiences without some of the extreme effects those things have. And those things have their place, but it's nice if we can just experience the benefits without, losing days sometimes. We can always access those states. So, how do we induce theta states? Theta states can be a little bit trickier because we want to stay in that theta place. We don't want to go down to a delta place. Usually, if you're sleeping, you go into a delta state first, and your body gets its rest, and then you kind of move up into a theta state, which is where you can dream. You can lucid dream, or you can just sit back and receive whatever images are coming. So when we try to induce theta states, we're working against some of our natural tendencies, but there's so much power in those theta states that a lot of the work that we do in Akashic trance work is around trying to master that sort of Goldilocks zone between delta and alpha. We fluctuate. We always fluctuate. It's not like we're always in alpha, always in theta, always in gamma. We will always just kind of move between these states depending on where we're at, what we're feeling. So if we want to be able to move ourselves into a theta state, but not down to a delta state, again, we can use those two methods. We can use breathing and we can use toning. So if we want to breathe ourselves into a nice, relaxed theta state, we should keep our breath between 7 and 9 seconds on the inhale and 7 and 9 seconds on the exhale. Again, if you want to, you can hold for 7 seconds between. That may be a bit much unless you have a lot of lung capacity, but you can do it. And we found that just that very simple breathing pattern will take you into a theta state and keep you there. If you go deeper than that, if you go 9 or higher, you will probably fall asleep. Just fine. Sometimes we need to fall asleep, but we want to be able to remember our experiences in theta. So if we can keep in mind the breathing pattern of 7 to 9 seconds, then we can stay in that state long enough to have the kind of engaged experiences that we want to have when we do trance work. Now, it's easy when you're working with a guide. They can kind of monitor you and take you in and out, but when we're by ourselves, it can be a little bit trickier. So we suggest tools and things like that you can use to bring yourself into the theta state, do the things you need to do there, and then bring yourself out without falling asleep so you can remember. But just recording can be very helpful too. When Astara, my partner, and I do our own trance work, we usually record it. Even if one of us is not present, we can just kind of trigger ourselves to bring a recording and then go down to those deeper states. So a lot of powerful stuff can be done in theta states. So again, 7 to 9 seconds. Let's try it just for a sec. You want to find a nice kind of relaxed position. For a theta breath, I recommend sitting back. Get some good back and neck support. It's a very relaxing experience. So we're just going to breathe in for a 7 count, and out for a 7 count. Let's breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Immediately feeling your body relaxing a little bit more. If I do it too long, I'll take myself into a theta state and kind of just fall over. So I can only do it so much. But yes, as you can see, if you just are mindful of that breath pattern, you can take yourself down to that very deep place. And if you try to just program yourself, keep that in mind to not breathe too deeply, you can stay awake. Very powerful. But again, breathing is not always what we want to do. We don't always have the ability to just breathe ourselves down into those states. So we can use, again, toning. And this is probably one of my favorite things to do in the entire universe is to tone myself into a theta state. The place in your body where you want to tone where you want to hum is right about between your heart and your solar plexus. If you just generally keep the intention of humming down to that part of your body, you'll be able to induce a theta state very quickly. And you don't need to have a deep breath, a deep voice rather. You don't need to try and sound good. You don't even need to be audible, although if you want to, you can open your mouth and let the sound out. But really, we just want to vibrate into our chest, vibrate into our solar plexus and our heart. So if you want to do this with me, I welcome you to. You may not be able to hear me, but I'm just going to sort of hum down into my chest. Mm. Mm. You know, you can have fun with it. You can make a chant out of it. You can do whatever you want to with it. If you've worked with mantras or toning to the chakras or any of those things, if you've done ohms, you know, it's very similar and you can make whatever you want out of it. But ultimately, just feeling the sound, feeling the vibration down there, you'll feel it in your hands and your arms and your chest, and it's very relaxing. I find I can usually tone myself down into a theta state within a minute or two, just toning, which is faster than I can usually do with just breathing. So there's some very useful, very practical relaxation techniques. And you can do these things anytime. You know, even if you aren't wanting to go into a trance state, if you just want to relax, if you just want to get some sleep, you can experiment with toning, experiment with intentional breathing, play around with it. Everyone's different. It may work differently for you, but as you explore how breathing affects your consciousness, how toning affects your consciousness, that's the first step towards opening these higher senses or towards at least understanding them. Most of you are probably already very open, right? But we want to understand how to control these senses, how to turn them off and on. Maybe we don't always want to be astrally aware. Maybe we want to be more grounded. That can be useful for that too. You know, very shallow breaths, very quick breaths will bring us into an active state. If you've ever done breath of fire, which is a Kundalini yoga technique, that's an example of that, bringing us into a very quick but effective beta state. So the more that you can learn about these states, these different trance states and the brainwave patterns that are associated with them and what these different states are good for, the more mastery you'll have over your own mind and your own abilities. So thanks for listening to me talk about that. I wanted to talk about one more really important topic, and then I'm going to take you on about a 10-minute guided journey to explore some of these concepts more in depth. So the other concept that I wanted to talk about is the astral boundary. So before I talk about that, I should say really what I mean by astral. And in Akashic Trancework, we kind of take that term astral and simplify it to mean everything that's inside, right? We have physical space and astral space. If something happens in physical space, like I pick up a ball and I drop it, it's going to fall every time. It's governed by predictable laws of physics. It's physical. If I imagine a ball and I imagine myself dropping a ball, anything could happen. It could fly away. It could turn to water. It could turn to a bird, right? Those same laws don't apply. There are certain laws that do apply, certain predictable principles that do apply within the mind, but they're not the same, right? So when we talk about the things that happen in the mind, the thoughts and feelings, the spiritual visions, the imagination, the intuition, all those things are astral experiences. They're part of our astral space, which we sometimes call our fourth dimensional awareness as opposed to our third dimensional awareness. So how do we create boundaries within our astral awareness? Boundaries are great, right? We talk about boundaries a lot in life and spiritual work and social work and political activity. Boundaries are very important and they determine safety, right? You have a boundary at your door. Your door is a boundary. It means nobody can come in here. Nobody can come in here. This is my space. You have a bedroom door, right? You have all these different physical boundaries, and you have boundaries with people in your life. You have rules about who can talk to you, who can touch you, who can call you, who is allowed to talk about you, even. You might have some rules about that. We have a lot of these external rules, but we don't often think about maintaining astral boundaries, maintaining internal boundaries with those energies, with those things that enter our minds a lot. Here's something to think about, and I say this all the time because it's important. If you are thinking about someone or something, a memory, a person, a situation, an idea, that thing, whatever it might be, is within your personal astral space. If you're thinking about it all the time, it's practically part of you. It doesn't matter how much you've told the world that you don't want to have that there. It's still there. It's still present because you're allowing it to be there. You're giving it energy. You're giving it time. You're giving it thoughts and feelings. You're feeding it. How much do you want to feed those things? Those intrusive thoughts and feelings. Maybe you don't have them, and that's great, but most of us have things that come up into our awareness: people, places, memories, thoughts, ideas. And where do they come from? It can be hard to say, but they're there. They come in, and we spend a lot of time on them. A lot of time. Most of our time is spent focusing on these things outside of us. This is especially true with healers, with compassionate people, because we want to help everyone. We love everyone. Maybe we feel obligated. Maybe we have actual responsibilities. Maybe we have so many responsibilities to so many people in the world that we can never spend any time with ourselves. And that's ultimately what we're talking about. We talk about astral boundaries, is spending time with ourselves, spending time on ourselves. If we can create these astral boundaries, if we can create these rules for how much time we spend on other people, then we can create a boundary for pretty much anything, anything at all, any energy, any being, anything, no matter what. No matter what. And the beauty of this, the strength of this, is this: you have an external boundary. So you have a house or a wall or anything like that. Someone can come and knock that down. Someone can invade that boundary, but your astral boundaries can never be compromised unless you allow it. Another way of saying this is no one can take your power away. You have the power to decide where your mental and emotional energy is directed. May not always seem that way. Maybe they're so intrusive, so active that you feel disempowered, you feel powerless. But the truth is that you can devote some time to yourself. You can spend some time with yourself. Maybe it's a minute a day. Maybe it's 5 minutes. Maybe it's an hour. Hopefully, it's at least an hour because I think that you, all of us, myself, we should all spend at least 1 hour a day just taking care of ourselves. And it doesn't have to be a physical thing. Maybe we don't have time for that. But a time when we're not just sleeping, time to just reflect inwards. Maybe an hour is too much, but we should spend some time with ourselves. That's the most powerful astral boundary we can create, is setting aside time for ourselves. It seems simple, but it's very important. We don't need to martyr ourselves. There's no energy in the entire universe that requires all of us. We can love ourselves. We can spend time with ourselves. We can cultivate ourselves. No matter what our responsibilities, no matter what our obligations, we can set boundaries with our time, with our energy. And when we do that, again, we are safe. We can easily protect ourselves from anything that might come our way. from any being, from any energy, because we are solid at our center. And when we talk about this, we're really talking about heart centered awareness. We use that term a lot in Akashic Trancework, almost exhaustively and almost too much, because it's so important. So important to cultivate that center, that heart center, which nothing can touch, because there's no judgment in that space. There's no pressure in that space. There's no obligation or responsibility in that space. It's just a place to check in with ourselves. And for some people, it's very easy, it comes very naturally. For other people, it's a struggle. And honestly, I've struggled most of my life to cultivate this. And that's why we've channeled this modality so that we can learn how to cultivate our heart centered awareness. If we can do that, we can create a boundary, an energetic boundary with any energy, with any being in the universe. So that's Astral Boundaries, and it's about 9:46 right now. So I want to spend about the next 8 or 10 minutes guiding you through a very simple, relaxing visualization exercise that will kind of demonstrate how astral boundaries work. So I recommend sitting back. Having good back and neck support is usually a good idea for these sessions. Just getting nice and comfortable, finding an easy rhythm of the breath. And we'll do our 5 count again. Count in for 5 and out for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue to breathe. Just let your mind wander. Let your body relax. It's okay if thoughts and feelings just come up. There's no wrong thoughts, no wrong feeling. There's nothing to do here other than just relax, just breathe, allowing your thoughts and feeling to rise and fall with the breath. And as you relax a bit deeper, you'll breathe a bit deeper too, with a 7 count on the inhale and a 7 count on the exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Continue to breathe, but don't fall asleep. Just breathe, relax, and allow yourself to imagine something that a safe, warm, happy place, a place for your fantasies, daydreams, or memories. Allow yourself to be there fully. It's a place, no pressure, no responsibility, no obligations, just a place where you can fully be yourself, a place where you can connect with your higher self, your deeper self, your true self, a place of love, of unconditional love and compassion. This is your heart center. Just allow yourself to be there. You may find other beings come into this space, friends, family, partner, spirit, pet. If you want them there, welcome them. If you don't want them there, it's time to set a boundary. Ask them to step away. Ask them to step outside. Anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Anything that makes you feel unhappy. Ask it to leave. And you may find resistance. Those energies don't want to go. They want to stay with you. They are asking for your attention, demanding your attention. It's time to decide now how much energy do you want to pour into those things each day? How much time do you spend now? Is it too much? Is it enough? Choose, create your astral boundary now. You may not be able to completely send those things away. They are calling to you for a reason. Decide how much time you want to spend on those things. Maybe it's even someone you love, but someone who is very demanding. You can ask that being to leave for now, the same way you would ask someone you cared about to give you a little space, a little time to yourself, to pour into yourself, so you can be a more effective friend, partner, parent, child, employee, student, teacher, healer, whatever you do. having this time to yourself to nourish and nurture yourself will bring you deep joy and healing over time. Let's take some time now to take a couple more nice deep breaths. And as you breathe, just slightly faster now, bringing yourself up, bringing yourself out of that theta state to a nice, relaxed, engaged alpha state, opening your eyes, stretching a bit, but still holding that heart center in your mind because you can go there anytime to relax and connect with yourself. It's a real space, a real astral space, and it's yours and no one else's. So these are very relaxing experiences, and oftentimes people kind of fall asleep after these experiences. But I did want to allow a few minutes if any of you are still with us to discuss the experience or to ask any questions if there's anything you'd like to know. I'll leave this channel open for a few more minutes. How did I come to know this? That's a bit of a long story, but in essence, this is primarily a channeled modality. Astara, my partner, and I have been studying a numerous array of spiritual and psychological schools for a very long time, but ultimately, we came to this through a deep experience of activation, of awakening. I apologize if you can hear that tone in the background. It's kind of annoying. But essentially, yes, we channeled all of this knowledge through and we validated it later through our research. So we received the information from the Akashic record first, and then we later validated it. Think about that for a second. We received it, then validated it. Myself through my studies, through sweat lodge experiences, through a number of different things. Astara's story is really interesting. She randomly began to receive messages from her Akashic records, her personal Akashic records, fairly recently, only April. April is when this began. And since then, this entire modality has just channeled through us to the point where we kind of tend to feel like we're just along for the ride. So a lot of this awareness is very textbook. Like you could go and find information about the different trance states very easily, sure. But the methods for inducing the states, the astral boundaries, all that, my ability to guide people through these trance states, the specific tonal and medical information, all of that's come through channeling. All of that has come through our personal openness to receive. So, believe it or not, that's the real story. We've done a lot, we've researched a lot, but I would say that I've learned more in the last year or so since we've really been applying this modality through just being open and channeling than I did in my previous 20 years of studying pretty much every meditative, magical, mystical school that's available out there. You know, I've gone through Wicca, I've gone through Christianity, I've gone through Kabbalah, I've gone through yoga, I've gone through Buddhism, I've gone through pretty much everything that you can name, and nothing really ever did it for me. But ultimately, it was because I didn't really understand why. Why do we do these things, and how do we access that awareness? This sort of knowledge, this sort of framework can be applied to any belief system, any paradigm that you might have. It's not exclusive to anything. All we want to do is just explore our different states of awareness and do it safely, create ways that we can do it safely. Um, Becca's asking me, does this modality help open the third eye? Yes, very much. In fact, most of it again was received through channeling, and my third eye activation was very, very visceral, very physical. I could feel it, and I would start receiving a lot of visual information. In fact, I would say that this is what this modality does is activate the third eye, because the third eye is that visual, creative, imaginative capacity that we have, and we are opening it, we're activating it. Sometimes it's not even about opening it. Some people need to have it more closed. And another thing that we've been kind of learning over time is that sometimes we want to control the sort of aperture, the sort of distance that we have within our third eye opening. Do we want it fully open at all times? Do we want to be able to close it sometimes? Maybe we only need like that much open at any given time. Fully opening the third eye may not always be a good idea. You might get flooded, right? If you ever tried like DMT or something like that, that's kind of like the third eye opening. So, short answer is yes, it can help to open the third eye. A lot of what we do is just trying to open the third eye in a gentle, relaxed, safe way instead of just blowing it wide open like some modalities do. So, opening the third eye is not actually that challenging. It's doing it in a way that's safe and gentle to the being. It's really quite honestly the most important thing. So, we focus a lot on these safety practices, on learning our different states, on breathing and relaxation and grounding. We do a lot of that before we even think about doing any intentional third eye work. Hopefully that answered your question. I do tend to go on and on about these things, so I appreciate all of you being present. I know I've worked with a couple of you before, but if you would like to learn more about what we do at Akashic Trancework, we do a lot of stuff like this. We do webinars all the time. You can come to them all the time if you want to. We switch them up so they're not always the same subject matter. We have private sessions, we have free consults, we have events that we do, we have classes that we teach. So connect with us, look us up. You'll get some follow up information by email. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Deepest blessings. So much gratitude for being here. Until next time, my friends.